on with it.
All right, welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode, we are talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I am joined by the women of the Tigress Talk Podcast. How's it going, everyone?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am doing well. So we've got Kayla, and we've got Jerry, and we've got Whitney, and then we have Jess.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on. This is exciting. It's been an exciting year, up and down year for the Bengals. I don't know if I let you know offline, I'm actually a Bears fan. So
we'll forgive you.
Many people do, except for some of the Packer fans.
I'm sure.
Yes, I had a few that I was trying to get to follow me during the NFC game last weekend, and didn't go so well. We'll just say that. So I try to roll with it. I've been called bad things. Hey,
Hey, at least you got Andy Dalton during the really cool Viking beard moment. So
Yes.
You had to start out there, didn't you? Oh my goodness. Well, fine. Then I'll go ahead and say, if the Bengals get to the Super Bowl, does that mean the Bears are actually there as well?
no. I don't know how you even got to that. I don't know where we made that connection, but no.
Well, the Bears did beat the Bengals, right? So I'm just trying
You're trying to 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon the Super Bowl, and it's not. I'm not going to let you do it.
Well, I had to try. So I'm outnumbered here, so I had to do something. So let's go ahead and kind of get right into it. Obviously, it's been an up and down year. With this year, did you expect this going into this year?
Well, I wouldn't say it's been an up and down year. I feel like it's been a mostly up year, but I will say that I did predict that we would go 10-7. So I did predict this. However, it still is taking me by a little bit of surprise because I tend to always predict that things are going to go well, and they don't always do that. So I did predict this, but it is going better, I think, than expected. So I'm very excited about it.
And I think we all kind of saw that there was potential for this team. I think we're all just surprised on how quickly it's all come together this season.
Yeah, we were all very optimistic going into the season, and we had a lot of high hopes. And I think we kind of thought things were going to click next season. So this is just like almost a pregame to everything that's going to come after this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have to say, as a Bengals fan, it has to be exciting. But yeah, when I say down, right, I'm a Bears fan, right? And to lose to the Bears, I'm like, how did that happen? Number one, right?
Or turnovers. That's how that happened.
That's true. That's a great point.
We beat ourselves.
The other
We
thing,
did beat ourselves. No offense to the Bears, but we beat ourselves in that game.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you go. I'll let you have that one. Since we got all the logos, since it's a Bengals show, I'll let you have that one.
It's all good.
But when I say the down part, which at the beginning, the whole thing was with Jamarr Chase, not being able to see the ball, and what was that all about?
I think that was a lot of people making something out of nothing. I think that was the fact that our defense was way better than anyone predicted, and they were playing extremely well in training camp, and nobody really saw that coming. I think, we got Jamar. He's our first round pick. He's this amazing talent out of LSU. The Joe and Jamar connection is back together. Everyone expected it to be magic from the rip, not realizing or forgetting maybe that Jamar sat out all last year. It took a little while for him to kind of knock the dust off. And also that our defense was playing lights out, and we didn't even know at that point that how good our defense was going to be. So yeah. I think that was a lot of people blowing things out of proportion.
Yeah, it was preseason and practice that narrative started. So I think once game one happened and he was clutch starting then, that narrative died pretty quickly.
Was that part of his personality too? Is he kind of like that kind of edge of maybe people kind of doubting him, or what is Jamar's kind of personality like?
He's got swag for sure.
Oh yeah.
I him and Burrow seem to have a lot in common mentally, like in terms
Yeah.
of the mental toughness and their attitude and mentality in terms of their approach to the game. I think they see things in a very similar way. Their dads were both interviewed by one of our local Cincinnati media members this past week. And Jamar's dad specifically said, "Do not tell those boys what they cannot do. If you do, I feel sorry for you." And so I think that's what we saw and we continue to see from both of them.
Yeah, the best thing you can do for these guys is doubt them, because they're gonna do everything in their power to prove you wrong. So the people saying that he couldn't catch preseason, I think, has really been part of what's made him as successful as he has been, because he's very mentally tough, and he will respond to the doubters for sure.
And is it like a lot of his route running, or how does he get so open?
I remember, girls, you probably remember this too, in preseason, it was one of our defensive guys talking about Jamar's style and how he looks like he's not doing much. Like, he doesn't look like he's moving that fast. He just doesn't look like he's putting a ton of effort in. It's all like it's very smooth what he does with his route running, and he's sneaky fast. So I do think that's part of it, but then you can't deny the fact that he's just had so many more reps with Joe. So they kind of share a brain.
Yeah, and I've crowned him the Yak King, because I feel like he is just so good at making guys miss. I mean, he can throw a block. If Joe Mixon's got the ball and he's running, he can throw a block. And if he's got the ball and he's running, I mean, look out. He can make at least one or two guys miss in the open field a lot of the time. And so I feel like that is where he really shines. And my favorite play of his this year was against the Ravens when we were in Baltimore. And he had that big 80-yard touchdown. And just the way that he spun off of guys, trying to tackle him. They were trying to tackle him to the ground, and he kind of used that momentum to keep going. And he's just incredible. He's like a freak of nature. Watching him play has just been a real treat, I feel like.
Yeah, and he's had more. I don't know what the length is, but he's had more long touchdowns than even Tyreek Hill this year, I believe.
He's had 7 50-plus yarders, right? And Tyreek's had 2.
Yeah.
That's
takes
more,
that over 2.
That is
I'm not
more.
great at math.
Let me kind of check here real quick. Just kind of learn from math, by the way. Yeah. Well, obviously you talk about that connection with Joe Burrow. I mean, what makes Joe Burrow so darn cool?
I think he was born cool.
Yeah. Like, nothing bothers him. Nothing is too big for him.
Whitney's got it. Yeah. He's got style. He's just a cool guy. I mean, I said it before, these are just the coolest guys in town right now. And it's just so cool to see them and the way that they are and the way they've responded to all of this success. It's very impressive to me how they've handled everything that's gone their way. What makes him so cool? I couldn't even tell you. He's just got that je ne sais quoi, can't really put a finger on it. Oh, I've got my production assistant has just handed me my Joe Cool glasses. So
very nice.
There we go.
Nice. Well, thanks for the Spanish so late. I mean, French,
but okay. But it's just like you can't even name it, really. It's just something that is just innate in him, and it just oozes out of his pores. So
yeah. And it's been spreading to our team. They just don't feel any pressure. And I think no moment's too big. And as a matter of fact, I believe, and we saw this at LSU and in the championship year, the bigger the moment, almost the calmer he gets and the better he plays. Even in the middle of a game, in some of our more scrappy games of the season. And you've seen that in the first 2 games of the postseason. He gets hit. It almost like flips a switch in his brain and he plays better, so it's almost like the tougher it is or the bigger the challenge, just the more calm and lethal he becomes. And I do think that's spreading throughout the rest of the roster too.
Yeah, when you think about spreading, so like I don't know about you, but as an outsider, one of my favorite moments I heard was McPherson that kick. What he said to him before that. What was the story about that? Did you hear?
Go ahead, Jerry. You tell it.
So right before he was getting ready to go out to kick the winning field goal, he looks over at Brandon Allen, our backup quarterback, and says, well, guess we're going to the AFC Championship. And I mean, he's 22, a rookie. He looks like he's 15. He just has like the most like boyish features. And he's going out there calling a shot. And he doesn't even, if you watch it, he doesn't watch it go all the way in. He starts turning his back and he knows. Like, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it does seem like, you know, the everything's kind of going to the you know, I don't know, just the DNA of this team. And that's been fun to watch. You know, as a fan, I love to see these young players. I love to see them, you know, doing well. And of course, I had Jamarr Chase on my fantasy football team, so I won 4 championships. So with that.
There you go.
But and I don't know, you know, how long each of you has, you know, been watching football. You know, how did you become, you know, Bengals fans? And then when you look at this team, you know, sad to say is, you know, Bengals don't have this history, but is there a team that you would compare this team to in the past?
Well, I've been a Bengals fan my whole life. I started going to games consistently in 2011 when I got season tickets. And I have to say, even though I was alive in 1988, I don't think that this team really compares to any team that we've had before. I think that the 88 team was special and that was probably the most talented team that has never won a Super Bowl. So they had everything. They had every single little thing locked up, locked down. The fact that they didn't win that Super Bowl is a total travesty. I don't want to talk about it. It hurts my feelings, but I feel like this team is special and that this team has grit and determination, and they have beaten all the odds, and they have done this against all odds, basically. So I feel like there's never been a team like this, in my opinion. And even though we've had some good ones, we had a great team in 2005 with Carson Palmer. We had a great team in 2015 until Andy Dalton got hurt. And then he was just kind of, you know, just could not get it done in the postseason, unfortunately for us. But we've had a lot of really good teams, and I've seen a lot of good teams come through, but this team is unlike any other, in my opinion.
And I think the thing with this team is all the other teams, we were kind of all that other shoe to drop. Like there was always that like pit in our stomach, like something's going to happen. And I know I haven't felt like that at all this year. And I think that's how the majority of the fans this year has felt. Like it feels like there's almost been like an exorcism done on this team, and all the old demons and curses, like all of that stuff's gone, and it's almost a brand new team.
Yeah. Kayla, I know you've been a fan since a baby too, right?
Yeah, I mean, me and my dad, we have season tickets now, but we've been watching the games together since I was itty bitty. But I think the only thing that compares as far as like the level of excitement was like the 2005 team with Carson Palmer. But this is even way far past that. It's like this is the most exciting team I think in my lifetime. That I mean, it's just
Carson Palmer was not as cool as Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think that's up for debate.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I asked the question because I'm an old guy, so I do remember that 88 team and, you know, 49ers and the Icky Shuffle, you know, all that stuff. And tell you what, like, I mean, I like to see different teams, you know, winning. You know, I knew the Bears weren't going to do much this year. I didn't, you know, but I like to see, you know, teams with that swagger and these quarterbacks. I mean, Joe Burrow, obviously he's been carrying the team on his back, you know, with Jamarr Chase. But my question is, can he do it when he's on his back?
Burrow?
I think he can.
yeah.
He likes it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying that 9 sacks is anything that any Bengals fan wants to see.
Right.
But I've been preaching this all week. Not all those sacks are attributed to the fantastic defensive play of the Titans or the poor, you know, O-line play from the Bengals. Some of it is we have an aggressive quarterback that will hang on to the ball a little longer than he probably should. He just doesn't. I think he'd rather get hit than miss an opportunity to make a play down the field if he thinks that extra half a second will buy it for him. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of that worth mentioning.
So if you're kind of looking maybe at a weakness in his game, it maybe that he holds on to it too long, or
I don't know. You could call it that. And I do think that's an area maybe to possibly improve. But at the same time, we would have less sacks on the season. We just talked about this last night, girls.
Yeah.
We'd have less sacks on the season if he didn't do that. But there's a lot of completions that we also wouldn't have if he didn't play that way. There's a lot of first downs we wouldn't have made. And there's some games that we wouldn't have won if he didn't approach the game with that mentality. I think you look at someone like Favre. You're in Wisconsin, so gunslinger, right? And so one of his things that he always got knocked for was having so many interceptions. But that was because he was willing to take the risk of like, screw it, not Jamarr, but someone down there somewhere, like throw it up because if you don't at least try, if you don't take that chance, then there's no chance of scoring. So I think you've got a little similarity in kind of that wiring. It is exhibited differently, but I think it's a little bit similar.
And I think that even after the injury, he's just not afraid of being hit. And I think that that's one of the reasons why he plays like that. Is I think he
Which
just
is
has
mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't want to be hit, but
those are giant humans coming at you, and you're not, and you're just be like, oh, this is fine.
It's like that meme of everything's kind of sitting at a table.
Everything's burning down.
Everything's on fire. Yeah. No, that's totally him.
Yeah.
And the thing with Joe is when he gets hit, he gets right back up and he's playing like he never got hit. Like, it doesn't really affect his play. Like, we were just talking about this last night. Like, it does, like Brady or some of the other guys.
Nope. Makes him matter or something. Like,
yeah.
He gets better.
He doesn't want to give the other team the satisfaction that, like, oh, we got to him. He's up and he's going to keep tossing it.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I just saw a Mark Sanchez interview today. He was talking about, when he played with the Jets and when he got hit, and they get injured, then he was always worried the next time he got hit if he would get injured again or just even, falling on that, same, shoulder or whatever. And, when you look at it, obviously you've had that history with Carson Palmer being injured. I mean, obviously, there's all excitement this week, thinking about Bengals, but, are you worried, in the future, obviously it's risk reward. Are you worried at all, with him kind of taking more of those risks?
I'm honestly not worried. I think that they made some moves on the offensive line this year, despite what most people would have you believe. They did draft. We drafted Jackson Carman. We signed Riley Reif. We've made changes on the offensive line, and the biggest change is Frank Pollock. And I think that he is a really, really excellent coach, and I think that he's worked well with what he's had. Unfortunately, the game against the Titans sort of exposed everyone's worst fears about our offensive line for, various different reasons, as we've discussed. But I think that with Frank Pollock at the helm and continuing to add more pieces in the offseason, I think that there's a good future for this line. And I think they've shown improvement. 9 sacks is obviously not great, but they have shown improvement over the course of the year with being better with communication, and they've moved some guys around a little bit. So it's been a work in progress, but I have every confidence that it's going to continue to get better.
Yeah. And Titans have a tough and very tricky defense. So credit to them too.
A lot like the Bears too.
But what a lot of people outside of Bengal fandom don't really realize or notice is that we have the most cap space of anybody that entered the postseason.
We have money for you. Come play with us.
Have a checkbook ready.
Can you hear me?
You give some to the Bears? Would that be all right? Maybe just transfer it over.
I don't think it works that way. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
My math may be off. But, so you talked about coaching. So, as a collective and individually, do you trust Zac Taylor in these moments?
Yeah, we all really like Zac. I really liked the entire coaching staff this season. They've done a really great job. I mean, Darren Simmons and Lou Anarumo. I mean, it's just a great room. I think we have a lot of confidence in them, and I think that they're the reason that the culture is what it is right now.
Yeah, I've been a big believer in Zac from day one, and it was hard. It's hard when you're not winning games to believe in something and to believe that things are going the right way and that they're happening the right way. It's very hard week in and week out when you're losing all these games to keep the faith. But I always saw it. And last year, the reason why I predicted that we'd win 10 games this year is because we were very close to winning 8 or 9 games last year. We were, within I think 7 points on a lot of those games. So it was there. It was there. It just needed to come together. And I think we needed just a few more key pieces. Jamar has been a great addition. There's been a lot of really great pieces added. And last year, people were calling for Lou Anarumo's head on a platter. I mean, everyone hated that guy. Everyone was gunning for that guy. But we waited it out, and it's been I think if there was a most improved superlative, I would give it to him for sure, because our defense has been lights out this year, and we've added pieces on them too. So I feel like it speaks a lot to the moves that the Bengals made in free agency and in the offseason and what have you, with adding new pieces on, but also the coaching staff. It's a very cohesive unit now, and everybody is playing for each other and working hard for each other. And these players are working hard for their coaches, and they give them all the props and all the love. And I really feel like that's genuine. And I feel like people, especially at the beginning of this year, were still kind of upset with Zac Taylor, kind of calling for his head. They didn't understand what he was doing. And now finally that we've gotten to this point, I think people are finally starting to see his vision kind of come together, and they're starting to understand, like, okay, this could be the guy,
And this is the first year too that we got to see what all of those coaches could do with the roster that they wanted, because we were still in turnover mode. We were heavily in turnover mode year one of Taylor's coaching, reign. And then year two, we were only halfway there and we were injured. So this is the first year he's had a roster that looks like what they were trying to put together and that stayed relatively healthy throughout the season. We've been very lucky there, thankfully. But then also, like, I can really boil it down to, I trust Zac Taylor because the players trust Zac Taylor. And that's kind of the end of story. All of our players have perfect attendance at OTAs. And if asked about their coach, they sounded like they would take a bullet for him. And at the end of the day, none of us know what goes on in those team meetings in that locker room. So you have to kind of judge a coach sometimes a little bit by context and what the players are saying and how they're acting. And our players gave us every indication in the world that they loved Zac, would do anything for him. So that's all I need to stay on Team Zac.
Yeah, I mean, you look at other teams around the league, and they're getting up on their press conferences and they're throwing their coach right under the bus, and that's never happened. And I feel like if it was forced or if it wasn't genuine, it would have come out by now. It would be. I feel like you can only fake it for so long. So I think if these players really weren't all in on Zac, we would know by now.
Yeah, and it would have been so easy for them to do it too, because our record was so bad.
Yeah, right.
Especially after that Bears loss too.
Yeah,
because they lost to the Bears. I tell you what, like, as an outsider, that was a really cool touch. After the first playoff win, to go to those bars and stuff like that. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, that really kind of ingratiated him to the town, didn't it?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, how cool is it that our coach is going out into the community, going to the bars, giving the city like game balls. Like, I've never seen any other coach do that.
I've never even heard of it.
Nope.
No. And he had this idea for 3 years. He's wanted to do this for the city for 3 years. So
I think it really just speaks to how plugged in he is to the city, and which is great, because we're all from Cincinnati originally, and so being from Cincinnati is. Are you originally from Chicago? I feel like Chicago is kind of in a similar.
I'm actually from.
Are you from Wisconsin, right? I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, I'm actually. I always say that I'm from a suburb of Chicago. I'm from a town in Iowa, so it counts.
Oh, okay. But I feel like there's a lot of pride from where you've come from. And I feel like Cincinnati is even like extra. We're all very proud to be Cincinnatians. And, Zac isn't from Cincinnati, so he doesn't, I mean, of course he cares, but the fact that he cares so much about the fans and that he wants them to be involved. He wants to share this with us, the success that they've had as a team. You know, we all dreamed of winning a playoff game. I think I said at the beginning of the season, if we could win a playoff game, it would feel like winning the Super Bowl to me. And now we're one game away from being in the Super Bowl. It's like, it's just mind boggling. I can't even wrap my brain around it. But the fact that he wants to share that with all of us is just, it really just melts my little Houday heart. I can't even. It's just amazing. It's really cool.
Special.
This is actually just a little bit of a aside. I actually did get a chance to interview a Saints podcaster, obviously right before the news with Sean Payton, and I asked him, which team was first, the Who Dat or Who Day? Do you know about that history there?
Yeah, Houday was first. I'm sure he said Who Dat was first, but that is not true.
Yeah.
He did.
Listen,
I think he said it was about
there's
this close. So.
Googling, and you will see that Houday was first.
Yeah.
We're the first NFL team, right, to officially say it and use it. I think the state of Louisiana, like it was kind of like a Who Dat was like kind of a in the vernacular, but the Saints didn't use it first. The Bengals used it first.
Yeah.
He said that, both fan bases are pretty, respectful though of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we both say that we started first. We're the ones that are correct, but that's okay. I honestly like Saints fans. I think they're fun. So I don't have any problem with Saints fans.
I've never gotten in a fight with a Saints fan over that.
Me either.
No. I'd say, when you talk about fans, I mean, Saints fans or Lions fans, you're not hearing about Lions fans getting any fights ever.
I love Lions fans. I have a lot of really good friends that are Lions fans. So
absolutely. I root for the Lions, but in this game, I have to say, I am rooting for the Bengals.
Thank you.
I like to see different teams, and well, my ex-wife is a Chiefs fan, so there you go.
Well, there you go.
No animosity. It's actually
we love some spite on this podcast.
There's no spite there. It's actually good. It's actually all good. But so I would love to see the Bengals in the Super Bowl. But after seeing that Bills game, how can you beat Mahomes? I mean, what are some of the keys for
we just did
the
a couple
Bengals?
weeks ago. Everybody keeps forgetting we just beat them like 3 weeks ago. And
this month
they're mostly healthy.
Yeah.
And apparently I must have hallucinated that game because nobody else seems to remember it.
But it wasn't in the playoffs, so that's the thing. That's like
but they were still playing for
the number one seed.
Yeah.
We took that away. We gifted that to the Titans by beating them. So I think they still had a lot to play for. I think they're going to downplay it now because they lost and were embarrassed, and they can call it a false loss or whatever these ridiculous people are coming up with these days. But, we beat the Chiefs because we held them to 3 points in the second half. Mm-hmm. And we got it done when we needed to get it done. We were down by 14 points at one point, and that's kind of been something that has been happening a lot this year with this team. And it's amazing to me how good they are at halftime adjustments. Our defense is fantastic at halftime adjustments. Our offense is fantastic at halftime adjustments. They made adjustments on both sides of the ball to come out in the second half and to score points and to keep the Chiefs from scoring points. So now, yes, the Chiefs did shoot themselves in the foot with all their penalties. And it's funny, I was listening to one of our other Bengals podcasts a few days ago, and they were saying that, it basically comes down to the refs because the Chiefs get very handsy in their secondary. They could easily be called for defensive pass interference on a lot of their plays. They could easily be called for holding on a lot of their plays. Mm-hmm. The refs in that Bengals Chiefs game did not call the holding the way that I felt that it should have been called. So I feel like it depends on who the referee squad is and what they're going to allow them to get away with, because the Chiefs fans want to cry about the referees, but really the referees were terrible on both sides. And honestly, a lot of their no calls benefited the Chiefs, not the Bengals. So
their DBs are outmatched by our guys. Like, we have incredible weapons. They can't contain them.
Their secondary is not good. They're not great. And honestly, as much as I love the Bills and wish nothing but the best for them, I am honestly glad that we don't have to play the Bills, that we get to play the Chiefs again.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The Bills, I think, are much better on defense. I think I think the Chiefs have, maybe better weapons, but I think Josh Allen is getting hot at the right time. I think Patrick Mahomes, he started out struggling at the beginning of the season, and he's sort of kind of hit his stride. He was not injured last year. Joe Burrow said yesterday in an interview that he really didn't feel like he was 100% until after the bye week. And I think that was like week 10. So the fact that they were struggling at the beginning with really no injuries and nothing really to complain about, and they were still struggling, tells me that they are not a complete team that everyone thinks that they are. And I think that they're gonna struggle against us again. And I think it's gonna be maybe a close game, maybe not, but I think the Bengals are gonna come out on top. I think we're gonna score more points than them, and I think our defense is better than theirs.
Yeah, Joe's done pretty well this season when we've had to face teams twice. So
that's the other thing, that record.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hear what you're saying. Like, I do take into account that they know us. They're going to switch things up. They're not going to play us exactly like they did last time. It does make a difference that we're at Arrowhead and in their territory, because last time we played them at home. And it does matter that it's the playoffs and it's one game away from the Super Bowl. They're going to throw everything that they can at us. They're going to play with the highest intensity possible. But we do have things in our favor. Our defense is, they're going to be ready to go. I trust Joe Burrow more than any other quarterback in terms of going toe to toe for Patrick Mahomes, because I have all respect for Mahomes and what he's able to do. So I do get that. But I also love the fact that we played the first game in last week's playoff weekend, and they played the last one, and they went into overtime, and they had to really gut it out. And so I think things are stacked in such a way that it's a 50-50 coin toss who might win.
And
I think we're really well matched. No, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kayla.
I think that our guys are playing really loose because we don't really have anything to prove. We've never been here before. Whereas the Chiefs, they've done this like
all the pressure
4 times in a row, right? Yeah. So
it's expected from them.
A lot of pressure was on the Bills too. Yeah. So, and maybe they were feeling that. I know Bills fans, it kind of does feel like, why not us type of deal.
Yeah.
It is us.
So if it would, if I was going to fast forward and tell you the Bengals would win, let's just go around. Each of you tell me one player that would have made the difference then with the Bengals winning.
All right. I would say DJ Reader.
Yes.
Yep. For this,
I would say either. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say either DJ Reader or Trey Hendrickson. I think they're both going to have a monster game again.
Yeah, I'm going to say Jamar Chase again.
I'll throw out Logan Wilson.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Another thing that people are forgetting about the first time that the Bengals played the Chiefs is that we dropped 2 interceptions. We had them in our hot little hands, and we dropped them on the ground. So I think that if we can capitalize and win the turnover battle, I think that's going to be huge. That was a big thing against the Titans, and I think it's a big thing in every game that we've won and lost. We've won the turnover battle in our big wins, and I think that's going to be important again because Mahomes can be very generous with that ball. He's thrown his fair share of turnovers this year as well. So I think that if we can capitalize on that and get the ball on defense and get us some extra possessions, I think that's going to be a big thing too.
Absolutely. And, kind of looking forward to the Super Bowl, let's go ahead and do that then. What would be the more exciting matchup for the Bengals in the Super Bowl?
Give us the freaking Niners, dude.
We want the rematch.
Yeah.
With the curses.
We got to score to settle with the Niners.
Curses. That's the last curse to break.
Yeah.
Are they a better matchup with than the Rams or?
It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the last 2 Super Bowls, the 2 times the Bengals went to Super Bowls.
But I think also, yes, too.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, if the 49ers can somehow sneak into the Super Bowl, that will also be a miracle because I think they are not playing well right now. I feel like Jimmy G is banged up. He's not playing his best football right now. So if they can somehow, I mean, they've beat the Rams in regular season already, but if they could somehow squeak past them and get in the Super Bowl, I think they will just be predestined. Like,
yeah, and give me a Burrow versus Jimmy G matchup any day of the week. I mean, I don't want to get too, like, I don't want to jinx anything. I'm just saying Bengals fans want that. Like, we're on a revenge tour right now. That is kind of our thing this year. It's our jam. And like Jerry said, we're breaking all the curses. That's kind of like the biggest curse of all.
That's the biggest one. Yeah, that's the biggest one there is.
Why not? Yeah. Why not get that one too? So that's what Bengals fans want.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what we'll get, but that's what we want.
Yeah, and you kind of look at that then. What would a Super Bowl mean to Cincinnati? I mean, obviously, all of you are from there. What it would mean to the area?
I'm telling you right now, there will be the biggest parade that has ever happened. There will be, I don't know, millions of people sobbing in the streets, like openly weeping.
Hey,
like
I'm a Cubs fan, so that's how kind of. I mean, I just couldn't believe how emotional. I still get emotional watching that, and yeah. So,
I mean, when we beat the Raiders at home to win our first playoff game in 31 years, I would venture to say there was not a dry eye in the stadium. I mean, Jamarr Chase was he came up right next to me to hand a little kid that was standing next to me his gloves, and Jamarr Chase had tears streaming down his eyes, his face as well. So like, and literally there's a picture of me and my husband. I'm literally like doing the ugliest cry face you've ever seen because it was just so emotional. I felt like I just collapsed and just started sobbing because it was like this huge weight had been lifted. And, you know, if that weight was 1 ton, then the Super Bowl weight is 30 tons. I mean, it's this huge weight that's been on our shoulders. And for those teams to have been so good, for the 88 team to have been so good and to not come away with that win is just such a tragedy. And I think we can go a long way in righting that wrong by winning a Super Bowl. And, you know, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I hope it is, but I think it's going to be this team, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. I think it's going to be this team. I think they're going to have more than one. And I think it's going to be this group of guys, you know, at the core. I think they're going to add some more pieces and do some better things. But I think that this team has everything it takes to go far, and it will mean everything to the city.
Yeah.
It's like Joe said, if we can win the division, we can win it all. And I 100% believe that.
That's still my favorite quote of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if they really do win it all, it'll be like, oh, he knew. He knew.
Well, I did interview a 49ers guy, podcaster before this, and I told him I was going to interview you guys, ladies, and he did pick the Bengals to win 24-21. So, and he is picking his Niners to win too. So,
well, good. I hope they both do.
I tell you
that
would, you know, that's what I'd like to see. Good games in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs. Obviously, a heck of a weekend last weekend, but you know, good storylines. I mean, that would definitely be a great storyline right there.
Yeah.
One of the best. And I think if your team's not in it anymore as a football fan, especially if you are like around like my age range or whatever and older and remember those Super Bowls or whatever, I think you're rooting for that. Like, who wants to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl again? Like, whatever.
I mean, it was heartbreaking for not just Bengals fans. It was heartbreaking for a lot of sports fans. I feel like a lot of sports fans really felt like that 88 team was something really special, and they absolutely were. And, you know, the fact that Boomer now is talking about being a fan and he didn't realize what a big fan he still was of the Bengals, like it just really warms my heart because that's just great for those guys too.
Absolutely. In kind of talking about that, a couple other questions. So what is the best part of the Bengals game day and tailgating that you have all been a part of?
Well, I think the tailgating is definitely one of the best parts because it's the only part that you can win every single week. And it's the only part that you can really do something about. So I feel like, you know, when we're not losing a lot of games and there's not a whole lot that you have control over, the tailgating and having a good time with your friends is the best thing about the day sometimes. So, I love I tailgate with the Bengal Bomb Squad, and we are a really close-knit group, and I really appreciate all of them. And we raise a lot of money for charity, and it's a really special thing. And then, I think also getting in early and seeing the players warm up, and Joe Mixon will sometimes play catch with fans in the stands, and he'll be throwing the ball up to guys and little kids and everything else. So I think that's a really fun part of the game day experience.
And they also started doing the Ruler of the Jungle.
Yes, Kayla. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's been former players and
Kay
people
Adams.
I was gonna say, I thought
Adams, other people in the community. We had, it's just been great, and so many different people have been highlighted, and it just gets the whole crowd excited. So it's a good way to start the game.
Yeah, we are a close-knit fan base. We really are. And so I think, I had never tailgated with anybody before the Raiders game in the postseason, and what a highlight, and I feel like we do have a very welcoming fan base, and I hope that opposing fans that come to Cincinnati get that same feeling. I do think we're nice fans. I think we're fun to party with. We tailgate right. We have a great time. So welcome everybody to Cincinnati, do the tailgating experience. But we've been calling it a fan base this year, right, guys? Like for it does
fam, like
very,
FAM, like
family.
Fan base.
Yeah, it's a family-run organization. The Bengals are. They're family-run by the Browns and the Blackburns, and I think that kind of carries over to the fans also.
Have you met the? Sorry, I didn't. Do we have one more?
Nope.
Sorry,
Jerry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that tailgating. Whitney said, we don't tailgate, we have family reunions, and it really is when you go, even if you don't know anybody, you will know everybody when you're heading into the stadium. You just leave with so many new people, so many new friends, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to take my kids to their first NFL game. This, actually was the Bears-Vikings game, at Minneapolis, and it was a heck of an experience. Vikings fans were very welcoming. Unfortunately, we weren't able to tailgate with it being so cold, but just the atmosphere was just a cool thing. And there were other Bear fans that were there that I got a chance to meet. And so definitely a great experience. And have you obviously met the fan of the year for the Bengals?
Oh, Jim. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. So, I've had an opportunity to interview some of the fans of the day and or fans of the year, and I did interview the Titans one, and she was fantastic. And I definitely, I mean, that helps me learn a lot too. But it has been cool to hear, the fans and some of these tailgating events and groups that you do things for the community.
Yeah, I think every I think a lot of the bigger tailgates, they do raise money for charity. I know. So Jim has his own tailgate, and they raise a lot of money for different charities. We raise a lot of money for charities at our tailgate. So it's just a lot of the bigger tailgates do raise a lot of money. We try to do some good. We're all there together in one group. We might as well throw a couple dollars together and make it worthwhile. So.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. I do have one last mystery question. Are we ready for it? Okay. All right, here we go. Thoughts on Big Ben and his retirement? Ready, go.
Best thing you ever did.
You're out.
Then who?
Yeah, we being women and being Bengals fans basically are two strikes against Ben Roethlisberger. So I think I saw a tweet one time that said, "I hope retirement treats Ben the way he treats women in bathrooms." And so I feel like that
yes,
that pretty much expresses my sentiments. So.
It's interesting though. It's interesting, how winning, kind of people forget about those things. Then,
we did not forget.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We never forgot. There is no love lost, never was, between the Bengals and the Steelers anyway. But
Right.
been enemy number one, as Jess said, especially if you're a female Bengals fan.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of your least favorite humans.
And I mean, he went to college in Ohio, so unfortunately, we've all heard the stories that didn't make national news. So,
Right.
and there's a lot of them. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Suffice to say, I believe every accusation against him was completely true, and he is probably the worst human on the planet, maybe.
All right, then. Wow.
Were we clear?
Maybe not the worst, but I think he's for sure top 5.
Yeah.
It's like Putin.
Jeffrey Dahmer's in there somewhere. And
somewhere in
pretty
there.
Pretty close. So thankfully he never became a Bengal. As far as, this weekend, like, do you try to watch the games together, or do you each like to watch it individually? I know sometimes, fans get stressed about these tough games. What do you do with your, watching experience?
Well, sometimes like me and Kayla have season tickets, so we're at every game, whereas Jerry and Whitney live in Florida. So they only come up for, special games at certain times. But we kind of sometimes we have our group chat, and we'll sometimes talk about things as they're happening. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we talk about it after the fact. I know after this last win, we all had to do a Zoom call because we just really felt like we needed some togetherness after like what just happened. Like, so we do different things at different times, but typically we don't ever, although Jerry and Whitney, you guys watched that game together the one time.
Yeah. I'm not allowed back at Jerry's house, so I went to Jerry's
very
house
superstitious
for the Chargers game, and we lost.
That's right. It was the Chargers. Yeah.
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 We're going to work on that next season, Jerry.
Yeah.
If I'm not at the game, I'll usually watch the game by myself because my husband is not allowed in the house during the Bengals game.
Awesome.
Every time
her husband is bad luck.
We lose. He has to be gone at least 10 minutes prior to any game. And that Chargers game was his fault because he was still stuck at the house like 20 minutes into the game. And even Whitney was yelling at him, "You have to
out of
go.
the house.
You cannot be here." And he's a trooper. And even when I'm at the games, he still has to go to the neighbor's house to watch. He cannot be in our house during the game at all.
It's worked.
That's amazing.
It's only crazy if it doesn't work, right?
I do have a question, so if this whole dream scenario for a Super Bowl were to happen, Bengals 49ers, would you be up for getting a podcast and adding my 49er friend?
Sure.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
That would be fun. That would be exciting. So
yeah.
I mean,
the question is, are they ready?
Oh yeah,
this is a whole thing.
His name is Big. He goes by Big, so he's
Big. Okay.
See, I've had a whole season of going back and forth with the 49ers fan. My boss is a 49ers fan, so we just constantly talk trash to one another all season. I've been fired like countless times, and he told me today, he was like, when we go to the Super Bowl, he was like, "You're the enemy, and you will for sure be fired." I was like, "I know I'm going to be fired because we're going to win."
Jerry has a lot of trash talk practice with a 49ers fan.
Jerry's definitely our trash talking over there.
See, I love that. That's the thing. Like I could never live in the same town of where my teams are. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye, so Riley Reef, and a Bears fan in Wisconsin, and that's part of the fun of it. I think I love football, and yes, there are times I kind of get uptight or whatever, but you can't take it too seriously. I think you got to be able to give crap and get crap. I think,
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're all just fans. We're all just people.
Exactly.
I hate your team. I hate your team, but I can love you as a person. And that's kind of why our tailgate has been like the more fan friendly tailgate, because that's kind of our attitude. It's like, we welcome everybody as long as you're cool, we're cool. And, there's no hostility. And then we'll talk crap during the game, and then afterwards we'll all be friends again. So
plus for me, isn't that a part of the fun? Like, we don't get to actually go down there and hit the other guys.
Yes.
Right.
So, like, to like really mix it up with another fan, like that's our contact sport. Like that's all we get. Like,
Yeah.
Although
other than that, we don't get anything. So
I do have one beef with the stadium. I've actually been by the stadium. I took a group by the stadium, and that's kind of an interesting exchange with the roads and everything. And I got kind of I think I got mixed up on the wrong road. It probably was me, but it's kind of an interesting setup there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's confusing. I mean, there's bridges and highways, and all of a sudden you're in the city, and then you're on the highway, and it can be confusing.
But I
from
love
there.
driving up and seeing like both of the
Yeah.
stadiums, the Reds
yeah.
and the Bengals right there. It's just beautiful, and it's all right there on the river. And I mean, there's nothing. I'm biased, but there's nothing better
Yeah.
for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And connected by the banks with all that like
Yeah.
entertainment and stuff. Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm planning on taking my kids to Canton this summer, and I definitely would like to, eventually kind of take them to different stadiums. I know my son would like to do that. Like he's 12 and he's all into football and everything, and he wants to do podcasts and all that too. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, so it's fun. That's the thing. I think it's fun to share it with friends and family, and in football you can really do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great connector.
Yeah.
It is. Well, this has been fun. And as far as where can everyone find you again?
So you can follow our YouTube show. We're on YouTube, Tigress Talk, and on Twitter we are at Tigress Talk Pod. And I am Jess, aka Hube. I am at the Hube on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and I'm at K Swelbs on both Twitter and Instagram as well.
I'm at _Jerbear, JERRBEAR _.
And I'm at Bengals Whitney on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me. I definitely would love to do this again and connect with you. Best of luck this weekend. I will be rooting for the Bengals. So
Thanks for having us.
Hoo day.
have a good night, ladies.
You too. Thanks.